I work as a night security guard for a private storage facility just outside of town. It's not a bad job. Quiet most nights. I sit in a booth, monitor some cameras, and do 2 rounds through the lot during my shift. That's it. Easiest paycheck I've ever made. The facility isn't massive, maybe 200 units. Half of them are never used, and most people don't even come by after dark. So I was surprised when I got a call last Thursday from a man asking if he could access his unit around midnight. I told him the gates close at 10. He said he was a paying customer and just needed to grab something quick, said it was urgent. I didn't like it, but he gave me a name and unit number, and it checked out. Paid up for the next 6 months, so I agreed to let him in. He showed up around 12:17 a.m. I remember because I looked at the clock when I saw headlights creeping up the drive. He was driving a dark gray pickup with no plates. That was the first red flag. He didn't say much, just nodded at me and held up a keycard, which I hadn't given him. I should have stopped him right then, but I figured maybe he'd gotten one before we switched systems. He drove through the gate and disappeared around the corner. About 15 minutes passed, then 30. I started to feel uneasy. Most people are in and out in 10 minutes, tops. I checked the monitors. He wasn't on any of the camera feeds, not even at his unit. I scanned through the views one by one. Nothing, just rows of corrugated metal doors under buzzing floodlights. I radioed out, "Sir, just checking in. Everything all right?" Silence. Then faintly I heard something on the static. Not a voice. Breathing. Heavy and wet, like someone struggling to catch their breath. I called again. No response. I decided to do my second round early, just to be sure everything was fine. As I stepped out of the booth, the air felt off. Still, but not calm, like the whole place was holding its breath. I took the cart and drove down to Unit 137, the one he said was his. The door was open. Inside, there was no furniture, no boxes, just a tall, narrow mirror leaned against the back wall. It didn't look like something someone would store here. The frame was old, carved with symbols I didn't recognize, and the glass didn't reflect right. The walls behind me were warped in it, like they were melting inward. I took a step closer and my walkie crackled again. "Help," it whispered. I spun around. No one there. I was about to call it in when something shifted in the mirror. A movement, not mine. Someone or something standing behind me. I turned, but the unit was empty. I looked back at the mirror. The figure was still there, closer now. I backed out and slammed the door shut, heart pounding in my ears. I was done. I didn't care if I got fired. I just wanted to go back to the booth, lock the door, and ride out the night. But when I turned the corner, the cart's headlights cut across something sprawled on the pavement. It was him, the man with the pickup. His body was twisted, legs bent the wrong way, and his face was gone. Not bloodied or mutilated, just missing, like someone had erased it. My radio crackled again. This time it wasn't breathing. It was my own voice. "Unit 137, come quick." I floored it back to the booth and called the cops. Told them someone had broken in and died on the property. I didn't mention the mirror. I knew how it would sound. They arrived 20 minutes later. But the body was gone. No blood, no sign anyone had ever been there. And Unit 137? Still locked, still untouched. The mirror never existed according to the inventory. And the name he gave me, Michael Alden. No record, no renter by that name in our system. Not even 6 months back. The officer who took my statement asked if I'd been drinking. I hadn't. He let me off with a warning and said to get some rest. I didn't argue. I went straight home and didn't sleep for 2 days. I tried to quit the next morning. My boss said no, told me the contract requires 30 days' notice. I told him what happened. He just looked at me and said, "Don't go near that unit again." That was it. No shock, no disbelief. Just, "Don't go near it." I asked him if he knew what was in there. He didn't answer. Just walked back to his office and shut the door. I still work here. For now. I do my rounds, but I don't go near Unit 137. I switched off the camera feed pointing in that direction. Whatever's there, I don't want to see it again. But sometimes, when I'm in the booth late at night, the radio crackles to life, and I hear my own voice, screaming. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and this happened to me about 2 years ago. I had just moved into a new apartment after landing a decent job in a new city. It was a fresh start, and honestly, I needed it. The job was fine, nothing exciting, just a standard office gig. The apartment was a one-bedroom on the 4th floor of a fairly old building. It wasn't in the best part of town, but the rent was cheap, and the place itself was surprisingly clean and quiet. Or at least, that's what I thought at first. The weirdness started about 3 weeks after I moved in. I'd settled into a routine. Work, gym, cook dinner, then unwind with a little TV or a book before bed. Pretty uneventful. But one night I came home and noticed my front door was slightly ajar. It wasn't wide open, just not latched properly. I figured I must not have closed it all the way that morning. It didn't look like anything had been touched inside and nothing was missing, so I brushed it off and made a mental note to double-check it in the future. But over the next few days, I started noticing small things. A dish in the sink that I didn't remember using. The bathroom mirror fogged up like someone had just taken a shower, even though I hadn't. And then one day, I came home and the hallway closet door was wide open. I never used that closet. It's basically empty, just some old paint cans left behind by the last tenant. At first, I thought maybe it was just me being forgetful. Maybe I was stressed, distracted, not paying enough attention. But the more it happened, the less I could convince myself that I wasn't being careful. One night, I even took pictures of how I left certain things before going to work, just to make sure I wasn't losing it. Then something happened I couldn't ignore. It was a Friday night. I remember that clearly because I'd planned on staying in and doing absolutely nothing. I ordered food, took a hot shower, and sat down to watch something dumb on TV. I had just started a movie when I heard a soft knock. It wasn't my front door, it was from inside the apartment. It sounded like it came from the hallway. I muted the TV and sat there for a second, listening. Then I heard it again. 3 gentle knocks like someone tapping on wood with their knuckles. I stood up, heart pounding, and slowly walked toward the hallway. I was alone, obviously, and the hallway was empty. I checked the front door, locked. The windows are locked. Everything was fine. I tried to shake it off. Maybe it was the neighbors' thin walls, sound echoing weirdly. But the knocking didn't match the rhythm of anything I'd heard in the building before. It was deliberate, slow. I decided to leave the lights on and finish my movie. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the walls made my skin crawl. I laid there for hours, tossing and turning, until sometime around 3 a.m., when I finally started to drift off. That's when I heard it again. The knocking. This time it was louder, closer. It was coming from my bedroom wall, the one that faced the hallway closet. I jumped out of bed and turned on every light in the apartment. I checked the closet, the cabinets, under the bed. Nothing. I barely slept that night, and first thing in the morning, I called the building manager. I asked if maybe there were maintenance workers or cleaners coming into my unit when I wasn't home. He told me no, absolutely not, and that no one had keys besides me and the management office. and they hadn't used theirs. I started locking the door with the chain latch when I was home. I got a cheap door camera off Amazon and installed it myself. I even started sleeping with a kitchen knife under my pillow, which I know sounds insane, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off in that apartment. About a week later, I got home from work and saw a sticky note on my door. It just said, "Stop looking." I stared at it for a long time. There was no name, no explanation. Just those two words written in messy, all-caps handwriting. I immediately checked the camera footage, but the battery had died at some point during the day. Of course it had. I was freaked out. I filed a police report, but they didn't take it seriously, said it was probably a prank. Nothing they could do unless I had proof of someone breaking in or threatening me directly. That night, I pushed my dresser in front of the door. I didn't care how paranoid it looked. I wasn't taking chances. I barely slept, but nothing happened. The next morning, I woke up to find the sticky note sitting on my nightstand. Same message. Stop looking. I don't even know how to describe the kind of fear I felt. It was beyond normal panic. Someone had been inside my apartment, right next to me, while I was sleeping. I checked the door, the windows, even the ceiling vent. I don't know how they got in, and I don't know how they got out, but that was the final straw. I took a day off work, packed up what I could, and left. I didn't even terminate my lease the right way. I just mailed the keys to the manager and booked a long-term Airbnb until I found a new place. I never went back. A couple of months later, I got a call from the building manager. He was trying to get in touch with me because the new tenant in my old unit had moved out less than 2 weeks after moving in. According to him, she left in the middle of the night, didn't tell anyone, just vanished. He said the only thing she left behind was a single sticky note stuck to the bathroom mirror. It said, "You looked too." I hung up on him and changed my number the next day. I still don't know what was happening in that apartment, or who, or what, was inside with me. But I don't think it was just a person. I don't think it was just someone messing around. I don't look into things anymore. I don't ask questions I don't want answers to. I live in a different city now. I have locks, I have cameras, I have peace of mind. But sometimes, when the house is quiet and I'm lying in bed, I still hear it. 3 soft knocks, somewhere inside the walls. This happened in late January, just over 3 months ago. I work as a remote IT consultant, mostly from home. My job can get pretty intense. Long hours, random emergency calls, lots of screen time. I've got a home office set up in the back of the house, and I'm usually glued to my chair until well past midnight most nights. Because I handle sensitive systems for a few mid-sized companies, I take security seriously. 2-factor authentication on everything, encrypted drives, physical locks on my office door, you name it. Which is probably why what happened still doesn't make sense to me. It started on a Sunday evening. I was working on a network audit report when I noticed something strange. I had a private folder on my desktop I kept strictly for client backups. It's buried under layers of subfolders, and I keep it isolated from everything else. I only ever access it when I need to pull client-side logs for restoration. But that night, the icon was different. Subtle, but different. The usual blue folder had been replaced by a gray one with a tiny lock symbol, almost like a shortcut. I hovered my mouse over it, and the file path was the same. I opened it and everything seemed normal, but the modification date on every single file had changed to exactly 1 hour earlier. I hadn't touched the folder in at least 2 days. At first, I figured it was a system bug or a silent update that re-indexed the files. But something didn't sit right. I ran a scan, nothing. Checked my firewall logs. Clean. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That night, around 1 a.m., I was shutting down my system when I noticed a small window flash across my second monitor, just for a split second. It looked like a command prompt, but it disappeared before I could read it. I restarted everything, ran diagnostics again, and decided I was probably just overtired. The next day was normal, mostly. I had a few meetings, answered emails, fixed some broken integrations. Around 6 p.m., I took a break and left my office to grab food. When I came back an hour later, my chair was slightly turned. That might not sound like much, but I always tuck it in. Always. It was angled, like someone had been sitting in it. I live alone. No roommates. No one else has a key. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe I bumped it on the way out. Maybe I was just being paranoid. But that night, I put a sticky note across the edge of the door frame to my office. Just a little piece of paper so I'd know if it was opened. I woke up at 3:27 a.m., and something told me to check it. The sticky note was on the floor. Not torn, peeled off like someone had carefully removed it. I stood there in the dark hallway for probably 5 full minutes, staring at the empty doorway to my office. I don't know why I didn't go in right away. I just had this overwhelming feeling that I wasn't alone. I ended up going back to my room and locking the door. I didn't sleep at all that night. The following day, I installed a motion-activated camera just inside my office. One of those discreet, no-light models. I angled it toward my desk and synced it to my phone. That night, I checked the feed obsessively. Every 30 minutes. Nothing. But then, right before I was about to fall asleep, my phone buzzed. Motion detected. I opened the feed, and for a second I thought it was a glitch. The footage was almost pitch black, but I could clearly see my office. Empty. Still. But then something moved near the desk. Not a person. Just the chair. Slowly spinning. Not fast. Just one slow rotation, like someone had given it a light push. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, I scoured the footage. That single moment lasted less than 15 seconds. No other movement before or after. I started to think maybe my house was settling, or maybe airflow from the vents moved the chair. I was grasping at straws. I set up 2 more cameras. One in the hallway outside my office, one in the living room. Every night after that, the alerts got weirder. One night, I caught the sound of typing. My keyboard clicking at a steady rhythm for about 20 seconds, but no one was sitting at the desk. Another time, I caught a figure, just a shadow, passing across the hallway. No features, just movement. At this point, I was too scared to even leave my room after midnight. I kept my office door shut and locked. I even jammed a chair underneath the handle one night, like some kid afraid of monsters. I started skipping work. Told my clients I was dealing with a family emergency. After almost a week of this, I finally called a friend of mine who's ex-military and works in private security now. He came over, did a sweep of the house, checked the doors and windows, said everything looked solid, but offered to spend the night on my couch to make sure I wasn't losing it. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to him banging on my bedroom door. He told me to come out and bring my phone. He looked pale, genuinely scared. We sat in the living room and he showed me something on the camera feed from that night. At exactly 1:43 a.m., the camera in the hallway had caught someone standing outside my office door. It wasn't either of us. It wasn't a shadow this time either. It was a person. But their face was blurred, not pixelated, but like smudged. Like the camera couldn't focus on it, even though it was crystal clear in every other part of the frame. The figure just stood there, head slightly tilted toward the door, completely still for over 3 minutes. Then it turned, walked out of frame, and never reappeared. We checked the whole house again. Nothing. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing missing. My friend stayed with me the next 2 nights, and nothing happened. Then he had to leave for work. I begged him to stay, but he couldn't. I understood. The next night I got a call. No caller ID, just the word unknown. I didn't answer, but it went to voicemail. I played it back on speaker and my stomach dropped. It was my voice. I was talking about a project with a client. Word for word, a conversation I remembered having 3 days earlier. The audio was crystal clear. Not a phone call. It was like someone had been in the room recording me. I moved out the next day. It's been 3 months since then. I've changed my number, wiped all my devices, and haven't touched a single client file since. I can't bring myself to work in IT anymore. I get panic attacks when I hear keyboard clicks that aren't mine. I still don't know who or what was in that house with me, but I think about that blurred face every night before I fall asleep. And I swear, sometimes I still hear typing, faint and steady, even when everything around me is quiet.